Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In this week's video, I'm super excited. We're going to be jumping back into some romances. So I am going to be reading romance books for a week. And the reason why I really wanted to do this month was because I do have some really good fall romances that I really want to read, as well as I've just been reading so many like spooky thriller mystery type books, and I'm really missing that romance element. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take a quick breather from all of the scary books that really have to do with fall and read some romances. Some of the romances I'm gonna be reading this week, like I said before, are kind of set in fall, or they have that like fall feeling. There are some that were just either new releases or they're just romances that I have on my radar that I just am wanting to read. So not all of them have to do with fall, but some of them do. So I'm looking forward to that. Currently at the moment, I did start this morning Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer, and it is a romance, so I'm gonna go ahead and include it in this video. I'm about 104 pages in, so I'm a decent chunk already into the book and I'm really liking it so far. This is definitely a good fall type book, I think personally. This was on my fall TBR, so I'm really excited to continue reading this one. I just want to say my thoughts that I've had so far reading this book. It's giving me Sally Thorne vibes. So if you've ever read like The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, or I know in my fall recommendations video, another one of her books that I recommended was Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match. This book definitely reminds me of that book. It's got that storybook type feel to it, and just the dialogue, the way that the characters are written and the way that they communicate, it just has that same feeling. So if you've ever read a Sally Thorne book, this book is kind of along those same lines or similar vibe. The main character is the assistant to the villain in her kingdom. Whenever I think of a villain, I think of just this like creepy, gross old guy. However, the villain in this book, he is probably in his 30s, but he's young, he's very attractive, and the assistant has a crush on him. So far it's been really cute so far. You do get the villain's perspective every few pages, so it is dual point of view. But for the most part, you get Evie, who's the main character, you get her perspective of everything. There's a person who works for the villain who is sabotaging everything that he's doing. So right now, the villain and Evie are trying to figure out who that person is within his business. He kind of runs like a business, which I found kind of odd, but kind of cool at the same time. It's been really cute so far. I'm loving their banter, and I really like seeing the villain's point of view, so you can see how he views his assistant and what he thinks of her. I'm going to continue reading this, and I'll give updates as the week goes throughout, probably similar to how I did my thrillers for a week, where I'll show you clips. I'm going to try to save most of my thoughts for the end of the video, unless I have like a big thought that I need to say at some point during this video. Stay tuned. I'm hoping I can get through a lot of books this week, but we will see. So I'm horrible at filming clips. Yesterday I did start and I did finish Wildfire by Hannah Grace, and I filmed nothing. I think I filmed me opening it to the page that I was on at the time, because I finished Assistant to the Villain the night before. I had binged it, and then I binged this yesterday, and I wasn't thinking, so sorry. But I just wanted to give a quick update. I did finish this, so this is done. I'm moving on to my next book, but I really enjoyed this one. I'm gonna save all my thoughts and my rating till the very end, so if you're interested in that, stick around to the very end. The next book I'm gonna be reading is Butcher and Blackbird, which this is like a complete 180 from Wildfire. So that was just like a cutesy romance book about a summer camp and the camp counselors. This is a dark romantic comedy. I have read dark romance in my most recent monthly wrap-up video. I did read Ballad of Nightmares, which kind of gave me a little bit of a taste of what a dark romance looks like. This one is a dark romantic comedy, so I'm hoping that this one is actually really funny. I've heard a lot of people talking about it. It does have trigger warnings, so if you are interested in this type of book, read the trigger warnings, please, because it does deal with a lot of dark topics. And when I say dark topics, I mean 2 different serial killers end up falling in love in this book. So do with that what you will, but I'm excited to read this one. I kind of wanted something a little bit different. I didn't want to read, I have another like romance that's kind of more lighthearted, but I want to save that one and read this one first because I have 2 like dark romances and then that cutesy one, and I want to read the cutesy one in between the 2 dark romances so that way I can have a breather. I'm hoping to have a lot of books done by the end of this week. I'm on a roll, so I'm hoping I can read maybe 4 or 5 books this week. We'll see. So I'm about 40 pages into Butcher and Blackbird, and I didn't really explain anything about this book except for the fact that it's about serial killers who fall in love. Now that I've read a few chapters of it. So you get Sloane, who is a serial killer who kills her victims and takes their eyeballs, collects their eyeballs. And you have Rowan, who is nicknamed the Butcher, so just like his name is described, he butchers all of his victims. I didn't realize this at first, but they both, when they kill people, they're hunting down basically other serial killers or just the worst people in society. And so both of them meet in the first chapter where Sloane, she accidentally gets trapped in a cage after killing another serial killer, and Rowan shows up and lets her out, and they spark up this friendship based on the fact that they're both serial killers and both kill kind of the same prey in a way. Moves on from there, and Rowan comes up with this idea to where they can play this game to keep things interesting between them in their friendship, so they can kind of keep tabs on each other. I'm not sure how often they do it yet, but they both get assigned a person and they have like a week to find and then kill that person, and whoever does it successfully wins. It's not as bad as I thought. I thought it was just gonna be them killing innocent people, but they are actually going after other people who are just horrible. They do kind of have like a moral code, which is nice to see. So I can actually root for them a little bit, but I really like their humor. They're obviously serial killers, so it's very dark humor, but it's very funny so far. I am enjoying it. I'm only 40 pages in, so nothing too crazy. I just want to give a quick update because I didn't really fully explain the premise behind this book, and I felt like it was necessary for those of you who've never heard of this book. I'm going to continue reading. This is fun. Hi guys. So it's been another day and I didn't film any clips of me reading Ghosted, which who's surprised? Not me. And I'm about 150 pages in, and I just want to give a quick update or my thoughts so far. For some reason, I thought that the guy, so this is a second chance romance where the guy is a famous actor in like all these superhero movies. So think of any like Marvel superhero movie and he's just like super famous from that. The girl who he went to high school with and fell in love with, his first love, they ended up having a kid together. And for some reason, I thought he didn't know about the daughter, but apparently he does, or he did know about the daughter. So that kind of threw me off because I thought it was going to be like Forever My Girl, where the guy comes, he's a famous musician, he comes home for a funeral and he finds out he has a daughter that he didn't know existed. But the guy in this book does know about the daughter. However, I guess there was just a lot of issues with drugs and alcohol in his past. So the mother of the daughter kept him like away from her and would not let him meet her because he was just not in a good place to meet their daughter. I'm reading it kind of slower than I thought I was going to. And I don't know if it's just because I've been super busy this week, but you guys don't care. So I'm hoping I can finish this within the next day or two and give my final thoughts. Since it's been almost a week, I think this is gonna be the final book that I read for this video. I did have another book kind of lined up that I wanted to read for this video, but I don't want this video to go on over a week. So I'm just gonna finish this book and then post my thoughts about the 4 that I would have completed. Looking forward to seeing how this ends up, but that was really bad. So I finally finished all the books I'm going to be reading in today's video. I did have a 5th book that I really wanted to read as well, but this, for some reason, I started the week off so strong. I was like reading 1 book a day and it was so good. And I had a few thicker books that I was saving for the end of the week that I knew were going to take me like maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days, depending on how they were going. And so I was really thinking, oh, I'm on a good pace. I'll be able to read 5, no problem. And then I got towards the end of the week and I got busy and I had no motivation to finish some of these books. So I was able to finish 4, so I think that's still pretty good. The first book that I read this week was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This book, I just have to say, I really enjoyed this book. I did only give it a 4 stars, but I think it was just such a fast, quick, and easy read, and it was so cute that's why I gave it a 4 stars instead of lower than that. It didn't have a ton of like substance. Does that make sense? I don't know. It wasn't like super high stakes or anything like that. However, I did really enjoy the main character and the guy, the villain in this book. I thought that their relationship was just super cute. How they had like their back and forth banter and he was more of like the grumpy boss and she was like the sunshine. And I just thought it was a really fun take on the whole villain, assistant, superhero, that whole kind of world. I found myself smiling so much while I was reading this book. So it was very cute. I would recommend this to a lot of people. I thought this was just such a cute, easy book. It did have pretty short chapters, which I enjoyed. I think that really helped the book go quicker. And there were just so many fun like side characters. You really get to see how there's kind of like this found family within this company. So it's kind of weird because the villain, he's the boss of this like actual company. He's hired a bunch of people, which I guess you would consider like henchmen, but they all have different jobs within his office. So I really enjoyed that whole aspect of it. And I really loved the side characters. One of the side characters is this frog. And I'm assuming he used to be a prince or like a person because he wears this little crown. So it looks like, you know, Princess and the Frog, like that frog maybe. And he always holds up these little signs, like he'll write. He can't speak, but he will write. And then he'll hold up a sign that says 1 or 2 words. So I just really loved him. He was really good, like comedic relief throughout this whole book. This book ended in a cliffhanger. So there is going to be another book in this series. I don't know if it's going to be a duology, a trilogy. I have no clue how many books are going to be in this, but it did leave in a cliffhanger. So if you're wondering about reading this book, there will be more, I'm assuming, since it literally ended on a cliffhanger. And I was not prepared for that. I was not prepared to want to continue reading about these characters. I thought for sure it was going to end in just like a fun, cute way. But no, it did not end the way I thought it was going to. But it was still a really fun book to read. The next book that I read was Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the author of Icebreaker, so this was her new book that came out. You don't necessarily have to read the first book in order to read this one. However, you do see some of the characters from the first book in this book, so it is good to have that kind of background knowledge. And I did really enjoy just this world. I loved getting to dive back into it and seeing where some of my favorite characters from the last book what they were doing within this book, and that was really fun. But in this book, you follow Aurora and Russ, Russ is the hockey team's goalie, and Aurora is just a student there, but they end up having this like end of year party for the seniors who are graduating. They both meet at this party and they strike up this connection, end up having a one-night stand. However, Aurora leaves in the middle of the night without saying goodbye to Russ. There's this kind of like missed connection, what if type thing between both of them. You do get both of their perspectives, so you get to see how he feels about it and how she feels about it. But however, it is set in the summertime. They both end up working for this summer camp, and they're both camp counselors, and they do not know that. So after their one-night stand, they end up running into each other again at this summer camp, and they're both counselors, and it goes about how you would expect it would, considering she left in the middle of the night. And I just thought it was so cute. I loved getting to see their relationship progress throughout this book. I felt like you really dove deep into a lot of the issues that both of them had within like their families that really made up who they are now, and you got to see how that affected them later on as an adult and how they make decisions and the kind of people that they're attracted to. And I just thought I really enjoyed that. I think Hannah Grace does a great job talking about some like actual real issues that I feel like a lot of people deal with, and I just felt like it was so good. It was portrayed so well in this book and talked about. I really loved the conversations between the characters and how towards the end you really get to see the deep connection that they have. It's not a physical connection, it's an emotional connection, and I really enjoyed that. There's also a found family aspect in this book as well, so you do meet a lot of really fun side characters, and their stories are so fun, and I loved seeing them interact. I did end up rating this one a 4.5 stars. I didn't give it the full 5 stars just because I know when a book is 5 stars and it just wasn't quite there, but it still was really good and really well written, and the characters were phenomenal. The next book that I read was Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. This is a dark romance, and can I just say, when I say dark, I mean dark. Like, you should definitely read the trigger warnings at the beginning of this book. Like right when you open it, it talks about all the different trigger warnings. It's definitely necessary for you to read through these trigger warnings, because some of the things that happen in this book, the graphic detail that is described in this book, you kind of want that background knowledge going in. From the very first chapter, it really pulls you in. I ended up giving this book a 4.25 stars. I really liked this one. I loved the two characters. They just had so much chemistry right from the get-go. The author in this book, she leaves a Spotify playlist in here. I listened to that playlist throughout the entire book. She literally puts each chapter what songs you should be listening to. And when I was reading it, the songs were literally so perfect. Like, and I think that's what pushed this over a 4 stars for me, was because of how well the music was lining up with every single chapter and what was going on in the chapters. I just was laughing my head off. I was just so pleasantly surprised by this book. I was kind of worried going into it, since I knew it was a dark romance, that I was going to get kind of freaked out by it, but I just found it more funny. I don't know what that says about me, but I found it more entertaining than I did scary or gross. It was very graphic, so I'll just say that right off the bat. When I say graphic, I mean graphic. Some of the ways that they murder people, especially, very graphic. I don't know how the author came up with some of the ways that these two, like their signatures behind each killing. I don't know how she came up with some of those signatures. I'm wondering if she's a Criminal Minds fan, because some of it I feel like would definitely be taken from that. That could easily be an episode in Criminal Minds. And it does kind of end in a cliffhanger. It looks like there's going to be another book that continues the series. I don't know if the next book will necessarily be about these two characters or if it'll introduce new characters. There are some other side characters in this book that have a storyline kind of going on, so I'm curious to see where that's gonna go. I definitely will be reading the next book because I just loved the way it was written. I loved the dialogue. I loved how you're taking such dark topics and explaining it in kind of like a funny comedic way, like kind of almost like one of those scary movie spoofs in that way. Something like that. It was very good. I did really enjoy this. And the last book that I read was Ghosted by J.M. Darhauer. This one is a very cutesy, cozy type read. I kind of wish I didn't read this after Butcher and Blackbird. I felt like that was such a drastic difference that I don't know if that is what made me rate it what I did. I ended up rating it 3.5 stars, a little bit lower than my other books. I still enjoyed the story. It was a very sweet, wholesome type read. You do get a lot of flashbacks. You get to see from the girl's perspective. She's a writer, and so she has this diary. So like every chapter, you get a chapter from her diary of when they were kids, how they met, how they fell in love, how they got to the point where they are now. And you do get to see him work through a lot of his issues as being a star, as being this famous person who has so many demons and things happening with him. I did really enjoy the relationship between the dad and his daughter. I thought that was so cute. I loved their scenes together. However, I felt like the romance between the two main characters kind of fell flat for me. That's why I didn't give it more than what I gave it. I just felt like the way they reconnected and how it progressed from there just didn't seem very realistic to me. I didn't feel the passion. I don't know if it was the connection I was missing between them or what, but it just wasn't what I expected. And so that is it for today's video. I really enjoyed this week. I felt like it was fun getting to jump back into some romances because it's been a while since I've read a romance book. A lot of the books I've been reading this fall have been on the spookier side of things. So it is fun to jump back into some of this lighthearted kind of stuff. Well, some of them, not that one. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Happy reading. Bye.